Now, a few weeks ago, we had a shake-up at the KCCA, and it had connections with the Chitezi incident and things like that. It took the executive director. We had talked to her on this very show some months ago, but it took her deputy, and the director of public health. And after that, there were appointments that were made for a period, to take the institution for the period of 3 months, to ensure that the operations continue as substantive appointments await. So we are going to talk KCCA this very evening, and we have the opportunity to talk to the man himself, who is at the stewardship of the institution, that is Mr. Nyakana Frank Rusa. He is the acting executive director. We want to know what is the state of affairs. Anyone can tell when a family gets their father arrested or taken well, things like that, there could be some tensions within the family. How are they within KCCA, and how are they moving on? What should we expect as the public, as residents of this beautiful city, in their situation? And this is where I welcome you, sir, to the show.
Thank you so much, Michael, for welcoming this show, and good evening, viewers.
Yes.
Who are viewing us from all over the world. I understand this show is sometimes streamed.
Definitely.
So we have people watching from all over.
So, after the arrest and the dismissal and whatever, Frank Nyakana, the name was mentioned, it was not a name so much known. Give us a brief of who Mr. Rusa is.
Mr. Rusa is acting ED at KCCA, but before I was appointed acting ED, on the 25th of September of this year, I was the director for legal affairs at KCCA, and had been in this position for about 1 year and 6 months. Okay. So relatively new. But before KCCA, I had done a couple of things. I have about 25 years of work experience in different sectors. I started off my career as a state attorney in the Directorate of Public Prosecutions. I rose to be the head of the legal department of the Uganda Electoral Commission in 2003. 2006, I left the Electoral Commission and joined International Development World. Okay. So where I rose to be a program manager in the Democratic Governance Facility, which was a huge basket fund supporting civil society, democracy, state institutions. I think many people should know about DGF. It was one of the biggest basket funds in Africa. Okay. From DGF, I became a country director for the Netherlands Institute for Multi-Party Democracy, where I also doubled as executive secretary for IPOD. This is the platform that brings together political parties for purposes of finding consensus on contentious issues, and this sort of introduced me to the politics of the country and most of the leaders. I know almost all the leaders in the political parties at a close range. And then I came to KCCA as Director of Legal Affairs. But my training is, I'm a lawyer, and I've studied at Yale University. I've done a leadership training at Yale. I've done leadership training at Stanford University. And I also hold a master's in public administration from Harvard University. Okay. My work has been really in the intersection of law, governance, international development, and things like this. So I sort of come with that wealth of experience and exposure to this role.
What is the current state of affairs at KCCA?
The last 2 months have been very tough months at KCCA, for the KCCA family, for all the 1,800 people who work with us in the technical wing, plus all the others. And I also think the people of Kampala. Let me say that the first real shaker was the Chitezi incident. Because here we are, we woke up to news on the 10th of August, that a garbage slide had happened and had killed, we got to learn that about 35 of our people had been killed in that garbage slide. Of course, it was very shocking news. Yeah. And not only killed our people, it had also destroyed so many homes, as a lot of property. When that garbage slide happened, it blocked a channel, and there was a backflow of water that submerged another 84 houses. So 84 houses were partially and almost fully submerged. And then on top of this, because the mountain of garbage was still there, we had to declare a buffer zone of 200 meters around the garbage at the dump site, affecting close to 500 homes. So we had to ask 500 homes to evacuate. So we are talking about so many people's lives seriously disrupted, so much property lost, so many lives lost. And here we were on the front line of this work. So it was a shocker. That was a big shock.
Yes.
Now, of course, we had now to work with the Office of the Prime Minister and other sister agencies and the Red Cross to begin putting our hands and our focus on the emergency response. While that was going on, investigations started on what could have caused this. And so these investigations of the IGG, of the CID, and other investigative agencies were going on. So we were in a rescue operation. Investigations are going on. People are being picked up to make statements. So the whole situation became very tense. Okay. And it all culminates in a number of our senior colleagues getting picked up and arraigned in the courts of law, and some of them are still on remand, and that process is going on.
Where did that leave you as
So
the rest
exactly.
of the house?
Now, because when that happened, then the house was completely shaken. Because here we were torn apart with, so you are dealing with emergency response, you are dealing with managing the garbage situation right now while you have nowhere to dump it, you are dealing with trying to find new land to do this, mobilizing stuff. Now, a shake-up has happened and people have been arrested. So there was a bit of fear. So that first thing that I did when I came into office, into this role of assignment of duties to be the leader of the institution, I called my senior management team and I set the facts out. Here is where we are. We need to reorganize quickly. We need to pick up the pieces. We need to start moving because we have a crisis to deal with, an emergency situation on our hands, and we have to mobilize the people to refocus them. So I am so grateful to the directors at KCCA because immediately they coalesced around me and my deputy, and they've given us immense support. I must say that we have a very, very good working relationship with all my fellow directors. And then we agreed on what are those things that we should focus on as priority areas in this period.
Okay, we'll come to that.
And before we get to those things,
okay,
we said we now need to get the staff mobilized. So I called for a very big meeting. I think on the 10th of October, we had an all-staff meeting. 1,300 people gathered here. And we talked about what had just happened, what our priorities should be. We got them to
have everybody on board.
Have everybody on board and re-energize them and refocus them and say, guys, we have a job to do in the next 3 months. Let's get all hands on deck and let's see how we can take this forward. I am glad to report that right now, there is a very positive outlook in the organization. There's more energy in the room. You can hear a lot of operations are going on around the city. All our teams are doing everything possible to bring back the situation to normalcy.
How do you fit in as a man who had been in the institution for only 1 year?
Yeah.
And here you are given the biggest responsibility in the institution, and at a time where it's facing a number of challenges that we'll look at.
Yeah.
How do you fit in?
First of all, I'm a very public-spirited person. I am a very public-spirited person, and I love all my life. I've either worked in public service or in international development, working in trying to solve problems. So when I came to KCCA, I knew that my role was Director of Legal Affairs.
Yes.
But I chose to spend the first maybe 6 months having very intense conversations with the Director of Engineering, with the Director of Revenue, with the Director of Fiscal Planning, with the Director of Treasury, and my other colleagues, just to understand, to diagnose what the problem has been. Because I was coming from outside and I knew the sentiments outside there, including myself. I thought that this institution is not working at full, is not doing what's supposed to do. So when I came in, I spent the first 6 months trying to diagnose the problem. And I had a very good conversation with the various directors. And we sort of got our finger on what the problems are. And we managed to speak with the ED then and the Deputy ED. And we were now in the process of mapping out a strategy of dealing with them. So one thing I think that my ministers or even those other people who saw must have noticed that I had that eye and an ear to what is happening. Let me also say that the ED, the past ED, was very kind to ask me to represent her in the council. So I was always representing the ED in the council, and I was also always escorting her in the City Executive Committee. So I would attend all the City Executive Committee meetings, and I would always represent her in the council. I also represented her in the Regional Security Committee, where the ED is a member.
She used to delegate.
I used to represent the authority in the Regional Security Committee chaired by the RDC. It has all the security chiefs, the police, the RPCs, intelligence chiefs. So I was sort of plugged into the intelligence community and what is going on there. I was also knew what's happening in the political wing. I was representing a guy in the council, and I was very well connected in senior management. So within that 1.5 years, I got a very good grasp of what was going on and possibly what the solutions could be. So I am not completely surprised that the powers that be, our supervisors, the ministers and the head of public service thought maybe I could be a good candidate for holding this caretaker role.
What do you think is the challenge, the real challenge or challenges of Kampala Capital City Authority as an institution?
First of all, KCCA governance structure is very complex. So you have a city that is supposed to provide public services to 4 million people or thereabout.
Okay.
And it is governed, you have a Lord Mayor, you have got a Deputy Lord Mayor, you've got a Minister, you've got a Minister of State, you've got 5 division mayors, you've got 5 town clerks, you've got 470 councillors, you've got 9 members of parliament, you've got an executive director, deputy executive director, 10 directors, and every director runs a docket, which looks like a ministry at the national level. And then you have to think about services that range from schools to hospitals to roads and drainages to running markets to managing public transport, street lighting, garbage collection, public health. It is a whole, basically you're doing everything the government of Uganda does for Uganda,
at the national level,
but at the city level.
Yes.
So the assignment is big, the governance structure is complex, and in so the fact that they are politicians, so you find that in the council, it is led by NUP. NUP is dominant in the council. The city executive committee is led by people from the FDC, yet the city is in the hands of the central government led by the NRM. So there's also these political contradictions.
When you say the governance structure is complex, what do you exactly mean? Because there is a level at which somebody must qualify to be a councillor. We expect only the cream.
Yes.
You people at the directorate and all of the people in the technical wing. When you say
complex, I say complex, I mean that roles sometimes are overlapping. So you have so many power centers.
Okay.
Everybody is issuing, for example, you reach the market and they tell you the councillor was here, said this. The town clerk has told us that. But the RDC has also said this. Then we got a letter from the deputy ED. Then the ED came in. Then the RDC. Then the minister has said. I mean, there's all sorts of things like this. So what is required actually at that level is there has to be a very smooth coordination mechanism. There has to be a very good, smooth coordination mechanism between the leaders. We need to have a shared understanding of what are we trying to do. And in the process of knowing what we are trying to do, we need to understand who is supposed to do what and when. Now, the beauty about it so far is that it is important to learn how to navigate all the political sensitivities and be able not to lose the eyes on the ball. And the ball here being service delivery.
Yes.
So my background working in iPod, I think, has been very useful because I know how to navigate through the political sensitivities and try to keep our eyes on what it is we are trying to solve. There is a common denominator. There is a common denominator that doesn't understand political colors. That common denominator is service delivery. Because the people who support NUP, the people who support FDC, the people who support NRM,
they
all want service delivery. They all want good roads. They don't want potholes. They want street lights to work. They want garbage to be collected. They want things to work. So because there's a common denominator, it is possible to easily arrange a consensus around that. But that is one area of complex.
So the first challenge is lack of coordination.
Lack of coordination
within the different centers of power.
The different power centers.
Yes.
That is a big one. The other issue is that limited resources. Of course, this has been a song. There will never be enough resources. Of course, the other question is, even the limited resources that you have, are you using them well? But before I even address that, let me begin with the limited resources. So you have a city, for example, we get money from Uganda Roads Authority annually to maintain our roads. How much money do we get? 10 billion. Can 10 billion really maintain roads in the whole of Kampala? Maybe not. So there's a problem of resources. You find you have a budget of maybe 400 billion shillings or 390, and 2/3 of that is in wages, paying salaries and this. So you'll have a very small development budget. So that in itself, you have a huge list of wants, public services that people want, but a very limited budget to service them.
To effect it.
Now, even the limited budget that you have, you are dogged around with a poor work ethic. So then the human resource issues come. So we have a workforce of 1,800 people. You find that out of that, about 1,000 of them, or thereabout, are on short-term contracts. They are casual workers. So these guys are not sure. They don't have job security. They are everybody. So nobody's even super committed to their work because they're worried about their contracts. They're here for a short time. They have to keep renewing them. So because of that disorientation in the human resource component, you don't have people committed to their work. So we have to rearrange human resources. We have to refocus people. We have to retool them. We have to clean up so many things and align the right horses to do the right race. You don't want to have a long distance horse running a short distance race, or the reverse. So there's that human resource issue. Then another issue that comes
within the technical wing.
On the technical wing, I'm just talking about the technical wing. Then beyond the human resource, I have noticed also there is a city, any urban city that is worth talking about. One of the central features of a robust urban plan, urban administration, should be a plan. Do we have a plan?
Do we
have a robust physical development plan? Do we have a drainage master plan? Do we have a strategic vision of where we want to take this city in a couple of years? Before even we talk about budgets and all this, because budgets are supposed to support
the plan in existence.
So you will go to physical planning and hear that for the last couple of years, physical planning directorate has hardly had any budget. So that's why sometimes you see problems of people saying this house is like this, then the next to it is a very tall building, you have so many.
So are you saying we don't have a
What I'm saying is that we have not invested sufficient resources in having an elaborate, comprehensive plan that we can follow for this city. That is something we have to do as a matter of urgency. So it's a question of resources, it's a question of technical competence and many other things.
Okay.
Now, beyond that, after you have all these plans, are you committed to implementing those plans, doing what you're supposed to do? So we have a problem of corruption. So you hear that there's thousands of buildings in Kampala, very few of them have approved plans, very few of them have occupational permits. Who allowed them to go up? Why were they never stopped? Why don't they have permits? When you ask the developers, they will tell you it's because when we come to apply in KCCA, it takes a very long time. Sometimes we have to wait for a whole year. We can't wait.
So we find
our own way. When you ask the people who are supposed to monitor them, why did you allow these people? The answers are wishy-washy. But basically, it's corruption. So we have to deal with that also. Have some house cleaning, some serious house cleaning, and also get people to comply. Now, while that is going on, KCC collects revenues, but all the revenues we collect are submitted to the center. And you all know how long it takes, how money from the center trickles back. It comes in quarterly releases, sometimes it's delayed because of the various competing priorities of government. Yet the work of KCC is on a continuous basis. We need to be picking rubbish every day. We need to be replacing the light which has gotten spoiled. We need to be paying workers on time. We can't be waiting for releases in a long time. So that brings the argument. I used to ask my friends here in revenue, why don't we keep our collections at source? The money we collect, why can't we keep it at source to service these day-to-day needs? And I'm told that the answer is in amending the Public Finance Management Act. Why don't we do that? It's not rocket science. We can talk to Attorney General, we can talk to people in Treasury, we can talk to Cabinet, whoever it is, to help us to do that, because it will help if we can unlock the flow of finances. But that's another problem. Another problem that comes to mind is also our citizens, either because of lack of adequate community engagement or adequate public awareness, or just a poor culture in the society. People, it is one thing to have an administrative authority that's trying to do a good job. It's another thing for you as citizens to be responsible. Where are you throwing your rubbish? Why are you throwing it in the road? Why are you deciding to run your small business in the middle of the road? I mean, there's all sorts of, so we are forced to enforce. And when we are enforcing, sometimes it gets a bit messy.
You cause some friction.
Yeah, some friction, and then people are, but at the same time have to be organized. We all have to have a shared dream of what sort of city we want.
At the level of a citizen?
At the level of a citizen.
And as the administrators of the city.
Even the politicians. Because sometimes we come in to fix things, and then the politicians say, leave our people.
Definitely.
Don't touch our voters. But if you don't touch the voters, and yet you want the shopkeeper to pay you rent, to pay you taxes. But the shopkeeper cannot enter the shop because vendors are full, hawkers are filling the corridors.
Definitely.
And the road user can't drive because borders are all over the place. So we have to decide what we want to do. So there's that issue. Then
the challenges are many.
Many. I could go into public transport. I could go into border regulation. I could go into, it's a whole long list of things.
It's a lot. But
now,
I
think what is important, and which I want Kampala people to know, is that in any management of any type, whether it is at the national level, whether it is at the district level, whether it is at the household level, the first key thing that you want to do is to diagnose the problem correctly. Because if you diagnose the problem correctly, and I think in management here, we have diagnosed the problem of Kampala correctly, then we can come up with suggestions of how to sort out this problem. Then we can take it to the Lord Mayor and his team, we can take it to cabinet, we can take it to the minister, and we get them to give us the political approval. And we need their political goodwill to implement without interference, so we can solve our problem. This is our capital city. A capital city is like a sitting room. You know, when you go to somebody's house, the first thing you look at is the sitting room. It defines the home. Exactly. If you enter a sitting room that is completely messed up, you may not even want to have lunch in that home. You are a lawyer. We need to fix our sitting room. You are a lawyer. Yes, sir. There is school of thought that the KCCA idea has failed. And some people think, actually, I've talked to one of the mayors in the city, and he thinks Kampala should be taken back to the local government system. With a bigger budget, it can definitely operate. The leadership will be able to trickle down the service delivery that it has to. He believes, not him alone, people think the KCCA idea is expensive in terms of managing the Lord Mayor and his team, plus again the technical wing. You must have 2 ministers, you must, a number of things. And the facilitation of the, it appeared in your submission that sometimes you spend on wages more than on service delivery. What would be your view? KCCA versus KCC or local government? Yeah, so that whoever is saying that is saying that the problem is structural, that maybe we have placed KCC in the wrong place, and maybe if we change the address, you solve it. You know, it reminds me of, there's a proverb, there's a saying that even if you switch seats on the Titanic, it is still sinking. So you say, maybe the problem, let's sit at the back or sit on the side. The problem is the Titanic is sinking. Yes. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're at the front or at the back. So all these problems I've just described, those problems can be in a local government, or they can be in an authority under the central government. You can tell that all the problems that I listed, there's nothing you can directly link that problem is there because you're a local government. But ideally, I'm coming to that question. Yes. All the problem there is because of the central government. I think what they're addressing is sometimes the over-governance, the too many power centers, and the interruption that comes with that. But why does he talk about local government? There's also a school of thought which says, why don't we have KCCA directly as an authority under the central government without the mess of political leaders and all these councils and executive committees and everything? You have a technical team reporting to a minister, reporting to parliament with a clear budget on clear deliverables, and they just do their work. Because you realize that local government systems only complain about budget. The rest of the things you have mentioned, they don't have. If they had money, they will have lights, they will have their town councils running and things like that. The town clerks, there is a way, I don't know how they handle. So I think Michael, in any problem-solving situation, this is not rocket science. I think it's a question of trying to cause and effect. Let us look at the problems that we've all listed, which are many, and by the way, that list was not exhaustive. True. I could have gone on and on. But let's look at all the problems I've listed, and let us have a sober analysis, a scientific analysis, not not politics and sentiments, a scientific analysis of what causes those problems. If we get a good causal link between the problems and what causes them, then maybe we can get to a scientific way of arriving
how it connects
on whether we need to put it under local government or under the central government or whichever. Because the rest is just a detail. You know, the president of Uganda likes to say that we waste a lot of time talking about the who should do something, and
Not
we forget
the what.
about the what. I like that analogy because it makes sense. What is the issue? When we deal with the what, the question of who and how becomes a detail. Now let us try to have a grasp and a common understanding of the what.
You have had 2 senior colleagues that have left that office where you sit, and each one of them left with some complaint. Madam Musi had a complaint around her that she mistreated people in the city, and people's voters were not happy. You hinted about it, but there is a politician in this town who complained that his voters were being mistreated. Actually, his people told him. Your immediate, the person you're sitting in for, I would put it that way, is even facing the law of a performance in the KCCA office. How do you think this office has to be handled, balancing the two, with your experience within the institution and now that you're in there with your other directors? How do you think one has to balance?
First of all, I think in this office...
I don't want you to take my question as a warning or something.
No, I understand what you mean, and it's a good question. I will not give you some information. When the day I was being handed over, the day I was selected, when the handover was taking place, the permanent secretary, President's office, gave us, in his speech, he gave us some information. He said that for as far back, I think as far back as the 60s to the present date, all successive chief executives at KCCA and former KCC, be it called the executive director, town clerks, by whatever name called,
yes,
none of them has ever left this office properly. Okay. None of them has ever retired and finished his term properly and had a farewell party and gone peacefully. They go with the people issues. Complaining. So he actually used the word that it's a poisoned chalice. Meaning it's a complicated job, and there is a very big likelihood that in the process of executing it, you are going to step on some toes because you have to take very many decisions, and almost every decision you take at KCCA will hurt somebody. Okay. Somebody will be happy about it, but somebody else will get hurt. And you don't know those who get hurt what they can do to push back or to do whatever they can do. But that said, for me as an individual, when I was given this assignment, I knew it, and I'm not saying it just for the sake of it. I think this is an assignment where you need God. You really need God. Okay. You need God's grace, you need God's wisdom, you need God's guidance, and God's favor. Because it's a complicated piece of job. But also I would think, and I've told my fellow directors, that maybe, you know, let's err on the side of caution. Whatever we do, let's try to stick within the law. Of course, sticking within the law when everybody is trying to press you to go into different directions will create you some enemies. But it is safest. It is safest to stick to the rules. If the rules are too rigid, let them amend the rules. Okay. But let's stick to the rules. Because if we don't stick to the rules and problems come, like they have indeed come for some of our colleagues, some of the people who pushed you to break the rules will not be there to rescue you.
As you face the
rules.
As
you face the music, they're not there.
As you face the very rules.
The music because they're asking you, why did you break this? Why did you do this? So, and there are all these organs, Auditor General's Office, our internal auditors here. People keep warning you along the way, raising a red flag here, a red flag there. And so you have to keep trying. So there is that issue of stick with the rules. And then I think also it is important to, I don't know how my predecessors, the people who held this tough position did, and I want to cut them some slack. But I think also it can help if you have a lot of stakeholder engagement. For example, the work that we do, why don't we move with the RCCs, with the security people, with the ministers, with the politicians? Let everybody know what's going on at all times. The more people have a buy-in in what you're doing, the more you spread also You spread the benefits, but also spread the risks. Okay. So you don't have to carry a cross alone. But that said, that is not an exhaustive way of completely dealing with the problem. This is a complicated job. I think another thing that makes it even more complicated is the lack of devolution. I have always wondered, why don't we devolve some of the powers? Why is it that the ED of KCCA should handle all the A to Z of the entire accounting role for the city? Why don't we, the law already provides for devolution. Why can't some of these services... You
see, the mayor I told you about complained about that, saying if he has to buy a pen for his office people, he writes a memo.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I agree with that, mayor. I think also we need to devolve. Let there be certain functions handled at the division level.
Okay.
Let there be, not everything should come here. Because when you reduce the burden at the center,
it's easier.
And you spread it, people, let Kawempe deal with its garbage issues.
Because they understand their problems more than you.
Let them deal with their garbage issues, let them clean their streets, let them run their show, they can give me a report, I can monitor them, supervise them. So this devolution will also reduce the pressure because there is so much, all eyes on you. Everybody is trying to get to the ED. So all these problems also make the job even more complex. Yet if you devolve, of course there's a procedure that will tell you technically it is one vote.
You keep the supervisory role, but devolve some of the practical works, that you allow them to do.
I imagine you'll reduce your power, maybe it will be less prestigious, it's okay, but it will be more manageable. It will give you more breathing space. It will give you more room to actually focus on results and deliver for this city. So all those are just ideas. But yes, it is indeed a very complex.
Everybody else around Kampala rejected your garbage. I'll call it your garbage because you're now in charge of this city. Entebbe said no, Nansana said no, everybody else. And a few days ago, every center of the suburb had a heap of garbage. How are you handling and what kind of plans do you have?
First and foremost, for those people who have rejected us and feeling uncomfortable, I don't completely blame them because anybody who saw what happened at Kitezi would be scared to say the garbage is coming.
Scared of what you're exporting to their areas.
Because they think you're bringing Kitezi to our area and the danger of Kitezi may happen to us. So there's that fear. So I can understand their concerns. But of course, because of Kitezi collapsing, there is a process. We had, of course, as I told you, when Kitezi collapsed, the biggest thing was that the Kitezi collapse killed so many people, destroyed homes, but also blocked a water channel. And there was a backflow, destroying 84 homes. And so we had to first deal with that emergency situation. But even while you are dealing with that emergency situation, there is 2,500 tons of garbage being produced every single day. You need to know where to take that garbage. While you are dealing with emergency, you also need to know where to take that garbage. So the question is, you need a new landfill. So a new landfill, we're talking about 100 acres at a minimum, 200 acres to optimally, where within 30 kilometers distance. There's a whole procurement process you have to go through and make sure with all the NEMA clearances and all this. It takes time to find that place. So because of all these pressures, we had to go to sister local governments and say, look here, Entebbe, Mukono, Wakiso, please help us. And I want to thank the leaderships of those sister local governments because they were open to us. Entebbe gave us some room to go and dump in Nkumba for a few days. But because of the massive volume of our garbage, even a week they will say, no, this is too much. So we went to Mukono, we went to Katikolo, and up to now I've been using Mukono. Of course, there are things we have to do to also support those landfills in order, some infrastructure investments which we are making. But we are really also at the same time speeding up the procurement of land so that we can be able to put a temporary landfill as we think about intermediate and long-term solutions or things like waste to energy, recycling, transfer of waste into manure and all these kind of modern ways of dealing with waste. In the interim, because of that, heaps have been gathering because when the guys come to pick it up, the concessionaires or the service providers who pick the garbage from your home, the next struggle is where do we take it?
Yes.
Now, even Katikolo, which has allowed us to take it there, has a window. They say you have to come here by this hour, and by this hour we are closing. And you cannot insist that we want to come transit night and transit day because it's not your landfill. So
you're just a beggar.
You're just a beggar, so you need to be well behaved. Otherwise, they'll throw you out and you'll have more problems. So, because of the emergency situation, I've had to there's still quite a bit of problems here and there. But I want to thank the people of Kampala for their patience. I think the hard lessons we have picked from this whole picture, and especially the most unfortunate situation at Kitezi, is going to make us better managers. I'm glad that even the country is now thinking about a national solid waste management policy. For me, as an individual, I would like to advocate and say solid waste management should not even be something for a municipality or a town council, a local government. Solid waste management should be a national thing because it's big. In countries like Ghana, Ethiopia, and other places where we have been trying to pick lessons from, it is handled at the national level. Actually, in Ghana, it's so interesting, is that for every liter of fuel bought in Ghana, there is the equivalent of 75 Ugandan shillings charged per liter. And all that fund goes to a fund dedicated to solid waste management. Now, it is that money that is used to pay off concessionaires and service providers across the country who are doing all these solutions. So you have a whole national pool, everybody in the country is contributing.
We heard of a Ghanaian investor that had taken up Kitezi. We have the horse itself here, from the horse's mouth. Is there any information like that?
Yes.
Because one wonders, how can Uganda or Kampala, for that matter, fail to have a system that absorbs garbage?
So let me tell you about that Ghana. I saw it in the newspapers. There's a lot of stories about it.
It wasn't anywhere in KCCA.
I'm here to speak about it. So there was, because of when this incident happened, it made headlines across Africa. A garbage slide has claimed so many lives in Uganda. And when people saw this on the TVs, many of them could relate with it because similar incidents have happened in other countries. A garbage slide happened in Ethiopia. It's also claimed quite a number of lives. Another one happened in Ghana itself, in Accra. Only that for them it was not a slide, it was a fire, which was very, very destructive. Now in Ghana, they have a guy there called, the company is called Jospong. Jospong in Ghana is the one providing solutions. He has about 20 plants where they are doing manure production of manure, managing of waste, and they're doing a very good job. They don't have anything like Kitezi there anymore. So when he heard what has happened to Uganda, he came here, and his people came here and said, by the way, for us, we can even come and decommission Kitezi for free. We can actually decommission Kitezi for free, and while we decommission it, we can also show you solutions, and then we can figure out if we can enter into some concessions. Of course, when our politicians went, our leaders went to Ghana and saw what and including some members of the former leadership. When they went to Ghana and so they were very excited. They came back with a positive story about, and said this guy should come here. So things moved so fast, and before we knew it, we were hearing people being, that they have gone on site, they are taking over the, but even at that time, I don't yet signed an MOU. Even up to today, we have not yet signed that MOU. But I need to tell you that the president has guided us on this. The president had a chance to talk to this investor. He listened to his proposal, he listened to his ideas. This guy is bringing an African solution to an African garbage problem. The garbage in Africa is so different from the garbage in Europe.
How?
So even because of it's mostly organic. So your garbage has got indagara, has got peels, is full of, it's mainly organic. As opposed to Europe, where garbage is mainly paper and solid and this and that.
Objects.
So yes, it's a bit different. So he has done a solution working on a solid that is, solid waste that is so close to ours, and the solution has worked. I think even the president of Uganda, in fact, called the president of Ghana to confirm, validate this man's story. And I think that has been done. So we have been given guidance to get this investor to help us with the Kitezi. After all, we are not even, the government of Uganda is not going to put in any money in that, but at least to mitigate against the risk, to first decommission that place. Do you know that because of the huge mound of waste at Kitezi, there is a liquid called leachate. Leachate flows out of the mound. It is a very dangerous liquid. It pollutes the water. It can be so dangerous in terms of spreading disease and all this. It takes, that leachate can continue leaking from Kitezi for the next 25 years. 25 years of that leachate entering, and so it needs to be treated. So there's all sorts of things. Another thing is that garbage of that volume produces methane gas. Methane gas is highly combustible. It can easily blow up into fires. That's why we are telling people it's so dangerous to live within the 200 buffer zone. So this Ghanaian company, Jospong, I think in Uganda it's registered at Zoom Lion, is coming here to help us decommission, make that place, bring down the mountains, deal with the leachate, put a treatment plant, and help us to organize that as we think about more intermediate and long-term solutions.
How about drainage?
Yeah, drainage is a big problem.
Whenever it rains in Kampala, no
Cars are
matter how, regardless of the magnitude of the rain, cars are submerged, houses are washed away in Kampala, in the biggest city of the country.
I know, it's such a shame. Just even today,
yes,
I think it just rained a few minutes ago, and these days, every time something like this happens, I just look at my phone and I see people sending me all sorts of videos. I think I'm one of the first people to receive all these videos, and it's a big problem. So we have a drainage master plan. Our drainage master plan has been done. This means, what is the drainage solution for Kampala to solve this problem? A master plan has been done. It has been costed. I think it's cost about $200 million to solve this drainage problem. We are yet to find funding for it. But in the interim, a number of measures have been done which have sort of eased the pressures. I'm told even when it rains, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes for this water to ease out. I am speaking to our experts about this. Whatever it is that they are going to come up with, we want to intensify advocacy for resources. Many of these things require a lot of money. First and foremost, and they are interlinked, because of poor planning. So you have allowed people to build where they're not supposed to build. People have gone into wetlands where they're not supposed to be in the wetlands. People are throwing garbage in the drainage channels and blocking them. That is behavioral change and community mobilization. Then there is the physical works associated with building these drainages, which requires money. It's a combination of factors that have brought us to this place. It's not insurmountable. It is going to take deliberate intention. It's going to take selling it to the different stakeholders. It's going to take efficient resource mobilization and financial resource use to see how to deal with it. But I agree, it's a big, big problem. Every time it rains, it worries us, especially in a period like this. Yeah.
Then our usual complaint of potholes and bad roads.
Yeah. We are aware of the potholes. We have made a promise to the people of Kampala that between now, at least until 31st December, we're going to do quite a bit of work on the potholes in the Central Division. So that work is going on. Of course, it has been interrupted by the rains, but there's a lot of work going on, and our people are working day and night. We are also working on some roads. Fortunately, the government of Uganda has negotiated good loan facilities from the World Bank and African Development Bank that is dealing on a couple of roads. There have been delays in these roads like the Port Bell Road, the Spring Road, and a few others which I highlighted in the press conference. But let me say this. The delays that we have been seeing have been caused by either contractors are not doing what they're supposed to do on time, which I think is a lapse on supervision and the speed of doing business inside the building. I've already told my team this is not going to continue. We're going to up our monitoring. We're going to up our supervision. We're going to make sure these people are doing what they're supposed to do in the time they're supposed to do it, so they can deliver. I want Kampalans to give us some few months. Hopefully by November we should see things improving. We are committed to trying to resolve some of these problems.
The solar lights went off on some roads.
Yes, I'm aware of the solar lights. We are also working a lot with, there's a couple of people who have gotten us quite a bit of innovative solutions around street lighting, which we are looking into. But this leads me to something else which I think we have previously not taken good advantage of, the space for innovation. You see, there is not, we don't have enough, we cannot have all the answers to the problems that we face. But the people out there, Ugandans are very resourceful and innovative. Even the people in the communities, these so-called simple people, I think we're going to have to intensify spaces for innovation, to allow people to give us ideas and give them feedback, to get people themselves to suggest some of these problems, like suggest some of these solutions to the problems that we deal with. There are so many proposals which keep coming in on street lighting, on cleaning, on greening the city, on keeping the lawns clean. We are going to have to build solid partnerships with the corporate world, with the banks, with the business community, with the bagagas, the kwagalanas of this world. We're coming to you to ask you to help us so that we can put our hands together and make our city great again, to make our city shine again. We can do it. I think we can. Let's not leave it to KCCA technocrats and the mayors.
It calls for each one of us.
All of us.
I'll take you a little back
Let's
to
fold our
Chitezi.
sleeves and do this thing.
I'll take you a little back to Chitezi. I was talking to former Vice President, Dr. Speciosa Wandera Kaziwe. She's a resident in Dundu.
Yeah.
And she is one of the leaders in that area who took a vow not to see your garbage, Kampala Capital City Authority, in Dundu.
Yeah.
And they said at least let them bring us the people of Chitezi. They should keep the garbage. What kind of agreement have you reached with those people in?
When we were, first of all, it's true. I know that they've actually even sued us. It's not just telling us don't.
Yes.
They've even filed a case in court.
Yes.
Saying these people should never bring their garbage here. I can understand, because everybody who would want anything like Kitezi coming in their neighborhood. But they had got it wrong. We were not going to carry Kitezi to their neighborhood. We are planning to put there a waste to energy plant, to have a clean way of dealing with waste. So when you go to a modern country and you go to a waste to energy plant, you can be surprised. I visited one in Maryland a couple of months ago. You cannot even smell anything.
They actually say that plant that you want to put that side, it must qualify.
Yes.
But the place doesn't qualify to host such a thing.
So now
they say it doesn't have to be a residential area.
Okay.
It must be very far away from
so
people.
by the time we did that, these people, they came later to buy. So the question will be, why did the planning authorities allow them to buy? Because in a wasteland, a dump site, you should have about 500 meters of a buffer.
Yes.
So they are saying we can't do that anymore there. We hear the arguments. That's the reason why we have opted to go to a new place, to find a new piece of land and put the buffer area properly and have a proper properly planned and gazetted space for the landfill. Now, on the question of to take people there, yes, there is an argument which is being considered by government that the people who have been displaced by the garbage sled at Chitezi, instead of carrying the garbage, take it to Dundu, take the people. But the people are also saying, why do you want us to take us away from here? If you're going to bring down this mountain of garbage and sort it out, why should we leave our neighborhood? Because Chitezi is very near Kampala, why are you taking us very far? But there are those who are saying, no, we are willing to go to Dundu. So it's going to be through consultations and negotiations. I think the cabinet will give us further guidance on how we should implement this. But yes, those conversations.
Those are long-term plans for KCCA.
Not very long-term, but a bit in the future.
Okay, but now, what does the RUSA administration for 3 months have for Kampala? In just a brief.
Yeah, so we are already doing things around cleaning up the city, finding alternative land for the landfill. We have managed to get the water flowing back in the correct way in Kitezi and trying to manage the Kitezi situation. I believe that very soon the company that is coming to decommission will start work, and therefore the risk to the people around Kitezi is going to be seriously mitigated. Okay. We have resolved the issue of salaries for the workers. They're all happy. They're on the streets cleaning. I think if you go around, you can see a lot of work. We have started a lot of work on trade order. People are crying, but we are removing illegal structures in the taxi park and all these places, decluttering the city. There's a lot of enforcement going on. We are getting our landscape teams to again begin greening the city, beautification. We need those flowers to be coming up soon. We are upping the speed on construction of roads. We have promised you potholes in the CBD, in the Central Division of Kampala are going to be worked on. Places like A Street are being worked on. We are going to intensify on monitoring of the contracting companies which are doing roads to do what they're supposed to do. There's a school in Kasubi, which was having a problem. The wall had broken. We are reconstructing that one. That work is going on right now. Inside the building, we are retooling, reskilling, mentoring and motivating staff to put up the shelves and focus. There's renewed energy in the room. I think by December, our public will have it will be up to you to say, are you seeing any difference?
Okay.
I think there will be a difference by then.
Thank you so much. As we wind up, have you applied for the substantive?
What a question. I knew that was going to come. I knew, Michael, you're not going to let me go without saying, yes, I have. And why have I applied? Many of my colleagues, including members of senior management,
yes,
and so many staff members.
There is a list on social media.
They have been sending me messages saying, please apply. And when I think about it, I think, why not? I wish, if I get the opportunity, I would like to make my contribution.
Okay.
But that will be the decision of the public service.
I've seen some very big names there. Are you not worried?
No.
With bigger records than yours?
It is okay. It's okay. I'll leave it to the Public Service Commission to decide.
Okay.
But I know those are good people. Those are good managers. There's quite a bit of professionals on that list. And I'm glad that so many professionals have been attracted to this position. Because we need the best among us to come and try to find this solution. Let the best win and let our city be better.
Just a message to a Kampalan watching you in a statement.
Mr. Michael, thank you so much for hosting me, and UBC, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for giving me a chance to introduce myself to the people of Kampala. I want to tell you that I was born in this city. I was born in Nsambe Hospital. I went to Nakasero Primary School. I've studied in Namilyango. I've lived all my life here. I live in Kampala. So this city is my city. And I am passionate about the solutions we are looking for. Maybe I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to work with you and everybody else to try and make our city better. And I'm sure God will be on our side and we'll have a better city. Thank you.
His name is Frank Nyakana Rusa. He's the Acting Executive Director, Kampala Capital City Authority. Yes, you now know where they stand after the shake-up and where they look forward to go as an institution.